have seen The Batman. We talked about the box office, we talked about its critical success, and now we're going to give our spoiler thoughts on this movie. It was almost a week ago when we saw this, Adam, believe it or not.
Yeah, how
Um,
about that?
so what were your overall thoughts, coming out of the theater, your initial thoughts, or, any overall thoughts you have about this film?
It's it's a great movie. I it's not my favorite Batman.
Mhm.
Um, and I love when I said on Discord when I got out, I loved like 90% of that, and I think that's kind of where I'm at still. So
Mhm. Yeah. Um For me, my overall thoughts were that I really loved it. I was, in the first 10 minutes of that film, and the way the tone was set up, the way the film was just, um, just the beginning, I was like, oh my goodness, this might be my favorite movie of all time. I was just really into it. And by the end, it didn't prove to be my favorite movie of all time, but it is definitely one of my favorite Batman movies. It might be right at or even above The Dark Knight for me. Um, and so it's right up there. And I thought there were a couple places where pacing was an issue and where it felt like the runtime was a little too long. Um, but other than that, I really, really, really love this film.
yeah,
So
I can see
I'm
that.
I'm excited to
What you
get into
said
some
about
more
the
of it.
opening there, I want to talk about that real quick because that
Hmm.
opening, there's a couple spots throughout this film with the narration with Robert Pattinson narrating.
Yes. Yes.
And particularly that opening narration was really poignant, and it
Hmm.
really felt like someone was reading a graphic novel to me.
Yes.
The way it was
Yes. I
written,
loved that.
the dialogue, the way it was written, the scenes that it was over top of, it just felt like there were words on a page that someone was narrating to me.
Absolutely.
So
And it
I
reminded me of reading
love that.
Earwolf,
Yeah,
you
absolutely,
know.
absolutely.
So I was
And
glad I read that before I
it
saw
actually,
this.
yeah, it actually made me want more narration through the film,
Mhm.
and it kind of goes away from that and then comes back, once in a while, especially
Yeah.
towards the end.
Yeah.
But I loved
Yeah, I
it.
kinda
I
wish there
loved
was
it.
more throughout
Yeah,
of that,
yeah.
yeah. And you even mentioned, I think after this film is almost, it felt like a graphic
It
novel jumping off
absolutely
of the
did. Yeah,
page,
yeah. I've
Um,
never had that particular feeling in a Batman movie.
yeah.
Some of the Tim Burton and Tim Burton produced ones kind of had that comic-y vibe, but it was more the
Mhm.
campy comic-y vibe. This one really just felt like a graphic novel just coming to life. So
In a way, this film might be more faithful to source material or the Batman comics, or than maybe anything else. You know,
here and there,
I,
yeah,
I I'm not totally, I'm not a
yeah. I
big
don't think
comic book
it's
reader,
yeah. I wouldn't
but
say it's totally. I mean, it's definitely an adaptation. It's definitely an interpretation, and that's cool. I love it. So
yeah, I think it's closer to like a comic book film though than
absolutely, absolutely, and
you know what I
and
mean.
Reeves
That's
has
I
talked
guess how
about
I'm.
the inspirations that they drew from this, from specific
Hmm.
Batman stuff, like you said, Year One. Long
Yeah,
Halloween was definitely a part of that too.
I
So
actually started watching the Long Halloween on HBO
okay,
Max as
yeah, they're
well.
pretty good. It's a
Um,
really good graphic novel too if you want to
yeah.
rent it or pick it up. I think I might have a copy of it.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I would love that. And because I saw that, it's Halloween, like this movie opens and
on
it's
Halloween,
like
I
on
yeah,
Halloween,
I like that. Yeah.
which is really cool
Mhm.
and everything. And
Mhm.
um, so there was just, I could talk over and over about this, but let's get into some of the characters and the performances. So we had Robert Pattinson as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Um, Again, for me, I really loved his iteration of Batman here.
I
I
do too.
think
Mhm.
it's a very brutal Batman, very hands on, very hand to hand type combat, and like most Batman iterations are. But this feels more brutal, and we saw that in the trailers, and I think that comes through in the movie too. and I love how everything is sort of handmade. You could tell that he's like crafting this stuff. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? And it has that quality to it. Um, and I like that his Batman voice was more of a harsh whisper than maybe like he didn't really, and he
Yeah,
didn't need to talk a lot. He did when it mattered,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, sure. What I particularly loved about his Batman was that, and we heard this going in. This was a detective Batman, and like you mentioned that he was brutal, and when he does fight, he is brutal. But there's a lot of not fighting in this movie, which
Mhm.
I dig
Yeah.
that about it. I mean, he
Yeah.
fights when he has to, and he is forceful when he has to be, but he's also
Mhm.
spending a lot of time following clues, and this is a mystery, and I particularly like that about this movie.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it, for sure, and we're gonna talk more about that when we talk about the plot and the story and everything. Um, I loved Detective Batman in this movie. I thought that was great. Um, and
Yeah,
then we had Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman and Selena Kyle. What were your thoughts on her?
yeah, she's incredible start to finish. I I still really love Michelle Pfeiffer's take on Catwoman, but I mean, this is every bit as interesting to me, and honestly, with a rewatch, maybe too, I think it'll be at least right up there with my favorite Catwoman. So
Yeah, she was great. I mean,
yeah,
I in the non-spoiler review I did, I said I couldn't take my eyes off of her, and not just because she's pretty attractive, but she just draws your attention. She's got this prowess about
yeah.
her, this confidence, and she really can take care of herself. Um, but I also like the dynamic between her and Batman as well, and their chemistry was really good.
I will say, if there's one thing I could change about this movie above anything else, I didn't love her ski mask.
Hmm.
I think the rest of her outfit was so cool. They had that leather feel. It just felt Catwoman, and then you had the ski
Yeah,
mask.
yeah,
So that bugged me
yeah.
a little
I
bit,
can see that.
especially
Hmm.
because I saw a promo image from something, a magazine. I forget which one it was. Um, that had Pattinson and her, and she's in like a more leathery type Catwoman mask, and that looks
Hmm.
so much better, so much
Yeah, yeah.
better.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a great image. So whatever
Hmm.
that came out of whatever magazine that was from, was really great stuff. But I just ended up liking that better, and I wish that was actually part of the film. But
Yeah, that's understandable. Um, then we had Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon, and again, I thought he was solid.
hmm
I
hmm
thought I really enjoyed it.
I would even
I
give him
really
more than
enjoyed.
solid. I thought he was an excellent Jim Gordon. I love
Hmm.
Jeffrey Wright in just about anything, but I think he was an
Yeah.
excellent Jim Gordon, possibly the best.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that argument certainly. Um, and he was just the way he and Batman interacted and their kind of that duo,
Yeah.
both being kind of detectives on the case. I
hmm
really enjoyed their
Their
interactions.
chemistry was
And
great together. I think it really
hmm,
worked well.
yep,
Actually,
definitely.
one of the best comedy lines. The whole you could have pulled the punch, and
Yeah.
Batman saying I did.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good
And
moment.
I think the comedy in this movie is actually really good.
Hmm.
It's not Marvel comedy. It doesn't hit you in the face.
No.
But there's a lot of times that it's actually very, very funny, and it's more of a dry humor, but it's
Yeah.
there and it's good. So,
Yeah, which is my kind of humor actually
hmm
usually.
hmm
And speaking of that, I thought Colin Farrell in his nearly pretty much
you wouldn't
unrecognizable
know him from
appearance as
appearance or voice.
no. Yeah, no. I loved this was a standout to me. The Penguin slash Oz, that was a standout performance to me. I really love this iteration of the Penguin. This
hmm
is I was hoping to see this kind of Penguin in Christopher Nolan's trilogy.
Yeah.
Like I was hoping he would show up in like the third one, but that never happened.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm glad we got it here. Kind of having this mob crime boss type, Penguin in there, and he, obviously he's going. It appears that he will be succeeding
Yeah. Right.
Carmine Falcone's role and
Hmm.
everything.
I was gonna say this, and I thought it was gonna be more of a hot take, but since you already said it, it's not. But I think Colin Farrell was. I think Penguin was actually my favorite part of this movie. Uh,
Yeah, I
and it
can
made
see
me
that.
that much more excited for the Penguin series. But I
Absolutely.
really think that Colin Farrell was the most fun character to watch in this movie. Just
I think he was having a ton of fun too.
seemed that way.
He,
Yeah.
and I think when you're sometimes when you're hidden behind a mask of sorts,
Yeah. Right.
it sometimes can bring out the best
He said
in your
something to that
performance.
effect, and I don't know.
Yeah.
That he thought that the makeup would be, really restricting on him, but he said it was actually
Hmm.
kind of the opposite.
It was freeing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that showed. And then I thought Paul Dano's Riddler was very creepy, very scary, whether he had the mask on or he
Hmm.
didn't have the mask on. He
I actually
he was a
preferred him. I find that I preferred him without the mask. I thought that
uh
the ending of the movie without the mask, where you could see the crazy in his face and the
yeah,
passion, I thought that was actually
yeah,
more chilling than the mask, and I
right.
kind of wish that was done more.
Uh-huh. That whole scene, like the interrogation type
Hmm.
scene when he's in the cell and Batman comes and they have their conversation, that was a chilling kind of scene.
Right.
Um, so I thought
Now,
that was
I will
that
say
was
the one thing about Paul Dano's Riddler for me is it does feel kind of um, reminiscent of Heath Ledger's Joker.
a little bit, yeah.
It feels kind of that way. He's doing the things with the videos to gain
Mm-hmm.
public support, which he does.
Yeah.
You have the craze, like you have the interrogation scenes. You have a lot of the kind of the similar beats there. So
Mm-hmm.
it does kind of feel like kind of maybe retreading some stuff that's been done before, but that doesn't take away from any of it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be clear about
Yeah,
that.
that's a good point though.
That
Yeah.
it's still really,
Um,
really, really well done. It just has,
mm-hmm.
for me, it just has that feel of something I've seen before. So, but
Yeah.
take that for
Yeah,
what it is.
I can see that too. Um And then we had I'm not entirely positive. I'm gonna try to say his name
John
correctly, but
Turturro.
John Turturro
I actually
was
love John
Carmine
Turturro.
Falcone. Yeah, he's been in a few
Oh
things. I
yeah,
mean,
oh yeah.
quite a few things that I've really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
What comes to my mind is he was in Transformers.
Mr. Deeds
um,
comes to my mind.
Mr. Deeds.
He was also. Have you ever
He
seen Secret Window? It's a Johnny Depp film.
No.
Stephen King. It's a pretty good. He's in that. Um,
I, I really enjoyed him in The Night of, an HBO series, which is kind of along similar lines. But and right now he's actually in the Apple TV series Severance, which I'll
mm.
probably talk about in the coming weeks. And so I didn't know, can this guy be in a serious role? But yeah,
Oh yeah,
obviously,
yeah. He can
yeah.
absolutely. He can.
And I thought he was great
Mm-hmm.
here
Mm-hmm.
as Carmine Falcone.
Yeah, check out
Um,
Secret Window. He has some.
mhm.
It's a very serious, creepy role for him in that movie.
Nice,
But
nice.
it's
I'll have
also
to
a
do
really
that.
good psychological thriller, which you might like.
Oh, I love those.
So
Um, and then we had Andy Serkis as Alfred, and the only thing I want to say about this is we didn't get to see enough of him,
I agree.
unfortunately.
I agree.
But I enjoyed him in the role. So, what were your thoughts on the plot and story? I mean, because we have really a film noir slash
Yep.
serial killer mystery. I've seen comparisons to Seven, which I really enjoyed, and the Zodiac, which I also enjoyed. The Zodiac is a slow burn. It's a slow. They're going after this killer for a long time. And it's kind of similar to the Batman in that way. And we have a running time here that's near 3 hours. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on this?
I liked the story. I really loved the film noir aspects of it. And it's
Hmm.
right off the bat from the title card on. It's film
Yeah.
noir.
Mhm.
Um, right down to even the end credits felt noir too. So I mean, the whole thing is noir, which I
Yeah.
really dug. I dug the mystery aspect of it. I liked that you didn't have you knew your villain, but you didn't quite know what was going on around it.
Who was really pulling the strings behind
Yeah,
everything, you know?
yeah, right.
Mhm.
I liked I really liked that part of it. Um, since you have runtime here, I'll say I do feel that it was about 15 minutes too long. Um,
Yeah. And I don't remember what point it was in the film, but there was some point in the film where I started feeling that runtime,
I
and I
did
was like,
too. I
"Oh,"
did too.
I was like, this is going on. The
Yeah.
pacing here is a little much." But
So where I never
um,
actually felt that for things like Bond or Endgame, I
mhm.
did feel it here. Um,
Yeah.
and I think a 3 hour Batman movie is fine, but I just for this particular one, I think it could have been 15 minutes shorter.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what I would take out of it, but it did feel like a little too long.
I think I started to feel it most around the time um, with the flood and the vans. As soon as I heard vans, I was like, "Wait, are we doing Dark Knight Rises again?" and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and then right about then, I think I started to feel that. So,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying you had to take the whole thing with the vans out and the flooding out and that type of thing, but I definitely felt it there.
Yeah. Yeah, and there have definitely been some maybe minor complaints about the third act, and because when we got to the point where Carmine Falcone is revealed
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
caught and everything, and killed, um,
Yeah,
I believe, right? Okay,
yeah,
just making sure
yeah,
my memory sometimes isn't good.
yeah.
Um,
There was no pulse,
I thought,
so
oh, and he's in the Paul Dano's Riddler's in the diner, and I'm like, okay, they're going to get him. I'm like, okay, this feels like this could be the end of the movie, but
hmm
then it goes on after that, like it's not
yeah,
over yet
yeah. You got
because
another
he
like
has
half
more in
hour at that
store
point.
for Batman. So yeah, but there was action in that third act
Hmm.
towards the
Sure.
end that kept me, in it. Um, but yeah, anyway, running time, it can be a good thing or not. The score I thought was excellent, and I even really enjoyed. I don't know how you feel about it, but the inclusion of that Nirvana song,
Yeah, they
I
leaned on
thought
it a little heavy. Um,
I was okay with it because I thought it felt like it really fit into this
it
movie
was there
for
twice,
me.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think I liked it the first time, and the second time I
Yeah.
was, I don't think we have to revisit it. But
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
yeah,
But yeah, I thought Michael Giacchino's score here was excellent. I thought it was haunting. I thought it was it felt it came to life, in this Gotham came to life. This Gotham was a character in itself, and I thought the score really captured that for me.
yeah, I think the score was great. I think it's probably one of Michael Giacchino's best works
Hmm.
to date. So, particularly the theme, the main theme. I think
Hmm.
that's probably the most memorable out of the whole thing for me, obviously. But
Yeah, and the Batman's main theme, it is very prominent throughout the whole score. Like
hmm. Hmm.
every time you see Batman show up, basically,
Yeah,
you hear pieces of that score, of his theme and everything, which I thought was cool because yeah, like when that character's
yeah,
on, you're
yeah.
hearing that similar music.
Hmm.
Um, so let's talk about some of our maybe favorite aspects or moments. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. In in the beginning of the film, the first time we see Batman and he comes out of the darkness, I thought that was like such a cool entrance, um, and just that first kind of brutal fight that takes place there really set the tone for the film, and I just love that moment. And to go along with that, I really enjoyed all the fight scenes. I thought they were very well done, very well choreographed, and they felt really brutal. Um, which I think is appropriate for Batman. So I enjoyed all of those things.
Yeah. One thing I enjoyed, and it's kind of weird because it's also something I didn't enjoy, but I'll explain that in a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
I enjoyed the reason why we didn't get much Bruce in this.
Yes.
You know, and there's been a lot of talk about that. You don't really get the Bruce character that we're used to.
Mhm.
You know, but then you find out later. You find out, especially in that kind of narration at the end. This is Bruce kind of finding himself again in this movie.
Yeah, this is year 2.
Yeah, and he's at this point really kind of lost in that Batman persona, and it's
Mhm.
really kind of taken over his life at this point.
And
Um,
he's all out for vengeance at this point
yeah,
in his character's journey, you know.
yeah. There's some anger there. There's it's rough around the edges.
Mhm.
But then he grows more towards the end of this, and he kind of maybe realizes more what he needs to be. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed that particular aspect of why there's not much Bruce. However, don't love the Bruce that we did get, and I'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Bruce was very damaged. You know,
He's still
as a
dealing with a lot of stuff. Yeah.
yeah, he's still dealing with his parents'
Hmm.
death and everything. So he's very damaged from that. You know, we're probably seeing a more damaged Bruce Wayne than ever before. Um, and that
Yeah.
definitely plays a role in his decisions and his choices throughout the movie. Um, I mentioned before I love the detective Batman slash Gordon duo. Um, I love that whole aspect of it. I
Yeah.
love. I mentioned also the Penguin. Um, love that.
Hmm.
And one of my standout scenes was definitely the appearance of the Batmobile and that car chase in the rain. I mean, it could be
This
a little bit
Batmobile
hard to
was great.
that I love that Batmobile.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like the standout action scene for me, even though some of it was kind of hard to follow and chaotic. Like I think that was obviously intentional. I mean, it was this car chase through the rain and everything.
So
Um,
much rain in this movie.
but there was a lot of rain. um, but yeah, that was one of my favorite moments
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, I can, and I'm gonna say Penguin again because Penguin was, like I said before, one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Hmm.
Um, and I really ended up liking, and I hope that there's a reason for this. Um, the the idea of people pulling strings, behind the curtains in Gotham, because I really hope, you have sequels here on the end, but I'll talk about
Hmm.
this now. I hope that means in some sequels that we might get a story point called the Court of Owls, and if you're not familiar with that, it is kind of that, you know, um, kind of Illuminati style group, behind the scenes
Hmm.
in Gotham. Uh, and that was a storyline that came around in the New 52 when DC kind of rebooted their comics. But that was a
Hmm.
really fun storyline, and I hope that they visit that, and I feel like that storyline in this is kind of setting it up. I really enjoyed that part of
Hmm.
it, and I hope that pays off with Court of Owls
Yeah.
later. So
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but it sounds cool.
yeah, it is.
Any other favorite moments or aspects? Anything before we move on to negatives?
Um, yeah, we talked a little bit about Andy Serkis, but I won't. I think that his Alfred was stellar. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
you see how much he cares, for Bruce in this, and then you see how much Bruce still cares for Alfred. You kind of see that
Hmm.
melding of the two, where maybe the relationship's a little bit rocky, especially on Bruce's part. Um, but then you see that really meld together with when he gets hurt and is in the hospital, and that scene in the hospital was really well done. Um,
Thank you for mentioning that. That
yeah,
that scene in the hospital was probably one of my favorite scenes in the film,
yeah.
and it really, I think, led Bruce in a different direction and
Yeah, it
helped
really
his character
changed at
develop.
that point.
Hmm. Kind of
he's
changed his trajectory.
yeah. I mean, there's some anger. We mentioned before, there's anger that's simmering there, and it's just about boiling over at that point. And then
Mhm.
Alfred kind of sheds more light on the backstory with his parents, and I think that really changes his outlook and approach on
Yeah.
through the rest of the film.
Right. Yeah, and Bruce kind of discovering that,
Mhm.
his father wasn't without flaw, that he was
And to
willing
be
to go to a
right,
certain length to, um,
and to be
you
honest,
know
I didn't love. For a while, I didn't love what they were doing with Thomas Wayne. It kind of
Mhm.
felt like they were making him into a bad guy, and I
Yeah.
didn't love that. That
Mhm.
I don't. Uh, I feel like Thomas, like the parents for Bruce, have to be that thing that he strives to, that he strives to emulate, or wants to make them proud, or do right by them. And
Yeah.
I felt like when you were making Thomas this kind of shady character, um, that it kind of destroyed that motivation. But
Mhm.
um, that whole thing with Alfred really went a long way to bring that full circle for me. Even sitting in the theater
Yeah.
to see what's going on here. This is Thomas Wayne is still this really good person, is trying to do right things, and he's desperate.
Yes.
And
And he never thought that somebody would have gotten killed because of
and
it,
he
you
didn't
know?
mean for that, but he went to the
Mhm.
wrong person. So.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, so that was good stuff in that scene.
Mhm.
Yeah, Alfred, I hope, I thought, honestly, I thought he was dead when I saw what
I did
happened.
too. I
Um,
did too. I'm glad they didn't leave that
and
sitting too long because that
no,
was rough.
but transitioning into the negatives, I guess I'll say one negative, and I don't know, there's certain things that I allow in terms of my suspending disbelief, but for some reason there's certain things that bother me, and nobody was really affected permanently by, like, getting blown up. So, I mean, you have Alfred who's in the presence of, like,
I can see
they
that.
said it was like C4 explosion,
Yeah,
and, he has a few scratches.
yeah.
And, I mean, he's in the hospital, okay, but,
There's a
um
little bit of it of um, logic things with this movie.
yeah.
That can be one of them. Another one of them is Batman escapes prison, and then the next scene with him and the police officers, they just kind of forget about it.
Yeah, yeah, they're just
Like
like,
everything's okay. He's
yeah,
kind
it's
of
all good."
annoying. I wish he wasn't here, but
Yeah, but
we're
he's
not going
here.
to worry about him just running out of the punching Gordon and just leaving. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. And I think at even one point, like, Batman gets blown up by something, and he's fine too. So just some of those
well, he gets
really
shot.
minor.
He gets shot in the chest with a shotgun.
Yeah, yeah,
But then he
yeah.
like
And
does the adrenaline
he
or whatever
injects
it is. Yeah,
himself with something. Yeah.
yeah.
So just a couple of those nitpicks for
Hmm,
me,
hmm,
because there's not a
hmm.
lot I don't like about this movie.
Yeah, no, that's fair though.
I mentioned already, like, the pacing in some parts where I felt
Yep, yeah.
there was. Yeah, I gotta go back and watch it again to figure out when that moment was. It was actually before Act 3 for
Okay,
me.
okay.
Um, and then I don't know how I feel about the inclusion of the Joker.
I agree.
And there was something that felt off about it to me. Um, Either the way he looked, you couldn't really see him, but the glimpse that I got looked weird, and the way he sounded, I was like, and just Heath Ledger's Joker for me is the ultimate Joker, and I'm always kind of uncertain about touching Joker again. I know you have to, but
Do you?
it's like they're doing it in, like, every
Do you?
iteration though, and I just want to break
Yeah,
from the
that's
Joker.
exactly what I was gonna say about it.
Yeah.
And like I said to you earlier in the week, like I'm sure for Matt Reeves, it has to be impossible to get your hands on this franchise and not do anything with Joker.
Anything with
Joker is
Joker,
like
yeah.
the best villain,
Mhm.
across any medium. you know,
Yeah.
Joker is an insanely popular, insanely interesting villain to examine, and so it's kind of hard to fault bringing that character in at all.
Yeah.
However, we've gotten so much Joker over the last 10 to 12 years. You go back and you think about stuff like the Arkham games with Mark Hamill doing an amazing Joker in those.
Hmm.
You mentioned Heath Ledger. We have I'm blanking on the guy's name, but Gotham
Jared
did
Leto.
a well, no, yeah, Jared Leto also, but then Gotham, the TV show on Fox,
Yeah, there was
had
that
a pretty
one, which
incredible
I
interpretation of
liked that one
Joker.
a lot, and
Yeah,
that was actually the dude who plays Cal Kestis in
absolutely, yep,
Fallen Order.
yep.
Yeah,
So I mean, you have all these really, I mean, with the exception of Jared Leto, for me, really interesting takes on the Joker over the last 10 to 12 years, and that's not even
yeah. You
counting anything animated that they've done.
Joaquin
Joaquin
Phoenix.
Phoenix is the other one, yeah.
I
Um,
think it would have been cool if they would have included that Joker in this movie, even though it's not exactly connected, but
Yeah, but you've just done so much with Joker,
it's
and
kind of
I
oversaturation.
yeah, and while I love the character, I wish now was the time for a break and to look at some other things in the
Hmm.
Batman world, because Batman has so many great villains. So many of them don't really get screen time on these projects.
Yeah.
Riddler hasn't had a lot of screen time, so I'm really glad they did that. Penguin
Hmm.
hasn't either. You got to go back
Right.
to really Batman Returns for much
Batman
live
Returns.
action,
Yeah.
except for Gotham. Um, you
Hmm.
know, live action Penguin stuff. So I was glad for that. Then they start talking about, Matt Reeves talks about Mr. Freeze, Pattinson talks about Court of Owls. There's so much that you can do with Batman that isn't Joker, and you've done so much
Yeah.
Joker. I was honestly deflated when I heard that mention of the clown in Arkham and all this other stuff. I was honestly like,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah. It was like it
but
felt like the end of Batman Begins all over again.
a little bit, yeah,
Um,
a little bit, yeah. So
but
I'm with you on that. I think that I wish that it was something else, but I mean, we'll see what happens. Matt Reeves says,
mhm,
if or when, so we'll see. I don't know.
yeah.
And that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that the next movie is Joker. So
Right. Again, it could be he might be included in that spin-off series about Arkham, where maybe he'll play a central role in that, but maybe not be featured in one of the films.
yeah, could be,
Um, we'll see.
could be.
Did you have any other negatives?
Yeah, I mean, I've already talked about runtime. There's a few. Like, I don't want to get nitpicky with this because it's a really
Sure.
great movie, and it's up there on my list of Batman movies. It's not perfect for me. It's not my favorite.
Hmm.
But I do really, really like it. So, I mean, yeah, there's some other negatives here and there, but I think I've covered the main ones at this point.
Yeah.
So,
So, what would you give this film for your rating for your score out of 10?
with one viewing, I'm gonna give you a range because I'm not quite sure, I guess, but it's like an 8.5 to a 9.
Okay.
8.5 on a bad day, 9 on a good day. So
Yeah.
it's in there.
Hmm. Nice. Mine would be 9.5. Aside from for me, like the minor things in the runtime
Hmm.
and the pacing, it's nearly a perfect movie for me. So I had to go 9.5 on this one, and I'll see what I think about it the second time. Usually, I even enjoy movies more the second time. So I don't think it's going to go up from a 9.5, but I'm not sure that it'll go down either.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's fair.
but any final thoughts we want to give, or thoughts about sequels? I did want to mention, just at the end of this film, Batman kind of goes from vengeance to hope, um,
Yeah.
which I think is his character arc.
Hmm.
And going from this idea of vengeance in the beginning to, I really need to give the people of Gotham hope, and that's what Batman's needs to be next.
Yeah.
Um, so I think even though this is a very grim, dark take on the Dark Knight, it ends in a hopeful place.
Agreed. I actually just remembered one thing I was going to mention for a negative that I alluded to
Hmm.
earlier, but it was about the Bruce Wayne stuff. And it's not so much that we didn't get the rich playboy type Bruce Wayne, because I see what they're doing there. I just don't really love emo Bruce Wayne, I guess. And
Yeah.
this is very emo. So
Uh-huh.
I feel like if
Yeah.
you dig the emo stuff, you're gonna love it. I don't, and so I didn't.
Yeah, I think I kinda dug it,
Okay,
to be
that's fair.
honest,
That's fair.
a and just coming from, like, a perspective of
He's
his
young and he's growing
character
into
being very
this.
damaged,
Okay, right.
so I kinda bought into that, and, but I also see room for this Bruce Wayne to grow
Yeah.
and to change,
See, that's
so I
where
can
that's
totally see
where
your side.
I'm kind of reserving this as well. Yeah, like I think there's room for that character to grow, for this
Mhm.
to be a little bit different down the road.
Yeah.
So and I would really dig if like Tenet Robert Pattinson,
Yeah. Yeah.
if Tenet Robert Pattinson kind of became what we end up getting with Bruce in this series, I would really kind of dig that.
That'd be cool, and maybe they even saw, I don't know when things were filmed and everything, but I don't
Actually,
know
I
if
don't know
they
if you
maybe.
saw it, but Matt Reeves said he was quote unquote devastated that Pattinson did Tenet because he thought that that meant that he wouldn't be doing Batman. So
Oh, okay. Okay, because
yeah,
I think you bring up a good point there, though, that that could be the type of Bruce Wayne we get eventually, which would be cool.
I would dig that. You know,
Mhm. Yeah. Any other final thoughts or thoughts about potential sequels?
not for me.
Do you wanna see a sequel?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's definitely more to tell in this world. So
yeah, I feel like, man, they've really got something going here with Batman that I'm excited about because 'cause they're already talking about sequels. They're already talking about
oh
spin-off
sure,
series
yeah,
that are happening. I
yeah. The
think you could
spin-off
get a
series are
whole.
coming. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, you could get a whole Matt Reeves Batverse, if you will.
yeah.
And,
Forget Zack Snyder. Sorry, Zack Snyder, but
yeah,
we're
like,
moving on.
I mean, as much as I love the Snyderverse stuff, I prefer this to that, and
Absolutely,
I'm
absolutely.
definitely here for all of it,
And,
so I love Batman.
I want this to be Batman. You know, I don't want
Mhm.
Justice League stuff in this. I don't want Superman. I want
Yeah.
this to be Batman.
Yeah,
So
and I want this to be the Batman going forward, like, these characters, these actors, this particular universe and feel. So I'm excited to see this movie again, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. But what were your thoughts on the Batman? Let us know, um, either on Twitter or if you're watching this on YouTube. If I even put this on YouTube in the comment section,
or
but
voicemail.
yeah, voicemail
Plug
that
that
works
right
too.
now,
Let us know.
724-901-1783, in case you don't stick around to the end of the show.
There you go. Let us know what you thought of the Batman. All right, Adam, it is time to go.